I can't even describe the devastation I was feeling. Uh, my husband was the only man I've ever been with. Um, to have him with somebody else and you telling me you love them, that was very hurtful. I demanded to meet her, and then she showed me pictures where she had rented a limousine. I felt like I was robbed of my husband's big moment birthday. At that point in time, we had been married 20 years. It was just emotionally hurtful. My heart was broken. I always described it as when we were kids, we had roller skates, the steel ones, and you would go real fast some, and if you fail, you saw nothing but the white meat. And then by the time you got home, that's when the blood came out. And I was describing that to Carleton. I go, this is how I feel. I feel like every time, because if it wasn't one woman, it was another woman. If it was not that woman, it was another woman. And I was like, every time you do something, it feels like I'm on those roller skates, falling on that same knee over and over and over again. That's how much pain I was in. And so I prayed and prayed. I was angry, prayed and prayed. I was angry. And I had to learn how to forgive. I had not only have to forgive Carleton, I had to forgive the women, which was hard. I'm not going to sit here and say it was easy. It was a 5-year run, 5 years. And, people were telling me you should leave and da 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 da. But God didn't tell me to leave. I stayed in prayer. And I prayed for people to surround us. And God sent people, and they did surround us.
I remember we was working together. We used to work together. And during this time, we used to drive to work together, and it was an hour commute. And we didn't have the luxury of counseling or coaching or mentor. And I remember like it was yesterday. We were talking and it was a heated discussion about this issue, and I saw myself literally opening up the door and jumping out the car, literally. I mean, it just, I tell people, we didn't have the luxury of counseling. It was just me and Angela that had to work it out. We literally had to work it out. And here you go to work, you drive, you commute an hour, you work, and you come home, an hour commute. And that was our counseling session. That was our moment where we basically got to the point of how are we going to correct this? How are we going to get through it? And a lot of people ask me, well, Carleton, what got you from that point of what made that change? And I tell people the change is understanding her pain. The change was understanding how she was feeling. And it's the empathy and the sympathy about how she was feeling that really said, look, we're gonna change, we're gonna stop this nonsense. Because it truly is nonsense. It truly is destroying our relationship, is destroying our family. And not knowing that we had a call in our life, that this was gonna be our calling in life. And so it's a process. It's not easy. I tell people all the time, we always tell people all the time, it's like somebody getting a checkbook. And you spend the money in the checkbook and you bounce checks. Don't expect to get the checkbook tomorrow. It's going to take some time to get the checkbook, and you got to build that trust up. And I remember my wife, at the time we didn't have GPS systems, at the time, so you have to be transparent and you got to expose yourself. And there's times I used to. I'm leaving work right now. I'm getting in my car. I'm making a left on Main Street. I'm going to. It was that deliberate to the point where she knew exactly where I was at all times. It was the lying and the lying and the lying and then you forgot the lie of the lie. It was just so crazy.
Our daughter, she was finishing up high school, and she made the statement she hated our father. Now, my kids grew up in the church, and I told her, no matter what, you've got to forgive him. This is between your father and myself. He'll always be your daddy, no matter what. She went off to college. She went to UC Riverside, and she got breast cancer. I was not expecting a 22-year-old child to get breast cancer. She had surgery. I mean, she went through things, and that same year she was diagnosed, my mother had a massive stroke. So I was flying back and forth, and my blood pressure went sky high. I was leaving Carleton here, didn't really trust him. You know, who are you with? Who are you messing with? You know, all that. But she did forgive him, and she went to work with him for 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. And when she turned 26, the cancer had metastasized throughout her whole body. You know, it was nothing but God. She lived 18 months after that. And she traveled, she lived her life, she did things.
I was at the hospital when she passed. I called the code blue when she passed. And the last word she said was, "I love you, Dad." And I'm glad I got it right. You know, I said, I'm glad I got it right with my daughter.
Right. And I tell people all the time, life isn't guaranteed for none of us. You don't know, you might be in an infidelity situation. And if we don't learn to forgive, you don't know what's going to happen. You know, it could be your child. It could be you.
I mean, you know, I tell people, the death of our daughter was a blow. It was a serious, serious blow for us. And I tell people, but he even thought he has it down. I mean, it was like, you know, you see, you know, UFC, we was about to tap out on this one because it was tough. And losing a child is hard.
It's very hard.
But one of the things I told my wife was, we're going to not talk about her at home. Meaning, our bedroom was our sanctuary. And I think that really saved us. When you hear it all the time, you repeat it all the time, and you hear it all the time, and then you go to bed and gotta hear it all the time. It can be it's stressful in your marriage. It's hard on your marriage. And so one of the things was, I told Angela, I said, in the bedroom, we're not going to talk about Erica. We're not going to talk. Erica is literally off the limit, you know. And it's hard for Angela because, you know, she's the mom, and we loved her, and so we made that decision to make that our sanctuary, that we don't talk about Erica, so we can have some time for ourselves.
And which made me feel guilty. And after she passed, I was angry. I was angry at Carleton. I was angry at the situation. I became very depressed. Thank God for my husband. He's the one that took care of her funeral services. I couldn't do it. I just showed up at the mortuary. But it was hard. It was so hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life. And I miss her dearly every day. It's been 15 years. And so, but you know, I know where she is. And that's the grace of God. It's the grace of God our marriage came back together. It's the grace of God that we started this ministry. You know, everything we go through in life is for the purpose and the goodness of God. I don't care what the enemy tries to do, he cannot destroy what God has put together unless you allow it to happen.